to Pardon Our Honesty, where we have another great episode for you. Today we are deep diving into people pleasing. That is something I really struggle with.
People pleasing.
People pleasing. So I think people pleasing, from what I understand from therapy, is born out of trauma, right? And so it's mainly like a coping skill for protecting yourself. So for me, trauma was chaotic, crazy, loud. I didn't like it at all. So then I started doing stuff like, don't make too much noise, don't cause trouble, don't get in trouble, so that you're going to make things crazy at home. So people pleasing just to keep the peace. Yeah. So I always refer to myself as peacemaker. But at times I feel like that's not my true authentic self, because sometimes I want to raise hell too. And then in my mind, everybody else's opinion of what I should do, how I should do it is playing. And then I do it how I think I hear in their mind. They are saying I'm supposed to do it. And then they say the opposite in person. And then I'm really pissed off, like, what the?
Yeah.
You just told me if I did it like this, you would be super happy and love me with all your heart. And I did. And you just told me I was a liar. I was a hypocrite. You said that 5 years ago, but now you've changed. So what the hell is the difference?
Yeah.
So
I think people pleasing, what you're saying, how you explained it, I agree. But I also think people pleasing can be based out of insecurity.
Yes.
So, different examples of, if I don't do this for my child, they're not going to have a close relationship with me. Or if I don't do this for a boyfriend, they're going to break up with me. Or if I just sit back and be quiet and do what they tell me at work, I won't get fired. Or, any of those scenarios, I think some of that comes from, I'd say, insecurities, because I don't really have a ton of trauma in my life, as a child to growing up. I had 2 married parents, no divorce. There was, some things in our life that maybe we'll get to in one episode, but not a ton of trauma. But I was just talking to my friend Connie driving here today about people pleasing is exhausting. And I was actually using an example of my partner, that he will go to the ends of the earth doing all these things to make the kids happy while he's suffering, or his mental health is suffering, and you're just worried about pleasing them. And it's like, why, how do people recognize it? Do they not recognize it? I think I sometimes can be a people pleaser because, like you said, I just don't want to hear the shit.
Yeah. Okay. I think that is very common. What you said about your partner is that's something that I've always done. I've always tried to make sure my partner was happy, the kids were happy, because I was never happy as a young person. So, and then like you said, that connection and that relationship, well, if I do everything they say that I'm supposed to do, then they're going to love me, and that will replace the love that I didn't get. That's very interesting. Ooh, to say that out loud. A little light bulb just went off, that they will love me to replace the love that I never felt as a child. We just gotta let that
go all the time. This is what happens when you try to be professional.
We'll just let that go. But yeah, so replacing that love, wow, that's very eye-opening, and helps me now realize, Tiffany, you can get your shit together and love yourself.
And that's what I think, that's probably the very end, love yourself. Because I think people pleasing, and some people may not see it that way. Like some people, I hear the expression, it's just not worth the fight. Yeah. You hear that a lot. It's just not worth the fight. Well, not everything has to be a fight, number one. And I think that's, if I disagree with you, it doesn't mean we're in a fight. But it doesn't necessarily mean I have to agree with you just to keep the peace.
Well, I will say, people that have experienced some crazy don't see conflict like that. We're going to talk about conflict because I'm having a really hard time with conflict right now. Conflict for me is, you don't like me, you don't love me. But like you're saying, it doesn't equate to that.
No.
And how do I not take, oh, we got to have a conversation as, oh shit.
But I'm gonna say though too, I think it depends on the person. It's interesting.
That's true.
Me and you can have a disagreement about something and we laugh it off and roll it off and say, girl, I don't agree with you. You say, girl, you crazy, and we're done.
That's true.
But if I say my partner, for example, or even my daughter, it may get more heated. And then I take it as, oh, is this something you don't like about me? Is this something that you can't see past? It's much deeper, and you take it more personal. Yes. That conflict, and then I can see what you mean, and you think, and that's where the people pleasing comes in. I just won't say anything. I'll just do what you're telling me to avoid the conflict, because the conflict relates to you not liking me.
Yeah. Or you not loving me.
Right.
Or I'm a screw up. I'm a failure, and it was just a matter of time before I was going to fail, and somebody sees it. So I'm struggling with people pleasing.
So let's take an example though. Let's break it down to people pleasing. So let's use an example of, let's start with let's say we both have children. Mm-hmm. So what would be an example that you feel you have done to people please for your children?
Not tell them as adults that you're screwing up and you need to make better choices in your life.
Okay. And now why are you afraid? Because you do that, they're going to shun mom and not have anything to do with mom then, because we don't want to hear the negative.
One, I know it can be loud and confrontational depending on which one it is, and I don't like that. Two, I never felt that I had someone that I could fall back on. Like when shit hit the fan at 18 and I had this baby and I needed a place to stay, it was on me. I couldn't go to mom or dad, cousins, nobody's, aunts. It was me. And so I never wanted them to feel like they were in the world alone, because I know what that felt like and it sucked. So those are two main reasons that I don't. And then I guess the third would be, okay, kind of like me, then they'll just find someone else to be that mother figure.
Right. So you feel as they would find another mother replacement if you spoke truth instead of people pleasing.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you're a blended family as well. Mm-hmm. So we'll talk about that eventually too. But with my daughter per se, there are things that I feel like younger, I never really did that. Mm-hmm. As she got older, I felt like I was pleasing in a way to compromise for the divorce, the blended family, the moving, all the things that she encountered. I felt like if I I didn't have too much with her, but there are some things I probably could have been more firm about, and I didn't, because in my brain, I was like, let me just pacify this, because the divorce could have done this, and us moving multiple times and having a blended family with a lot of chaos. Mm-hmm. I put all this on her. Mm-hmm. And so I would just people please. And with the stepchildren, I feel like it's people pleasing to an extent, because they are not mine. Yeah. We're not married, and I have different beliefs than their dad on a lot of stuff. And so sometimes it's just like, even though I'm like, I just want to fight it, it's sometimes you're just like,
it's not worth it.
But is it, or is it not? Because if you see things not going the way they should, are you enabling and making things worse by being a people pleaser just to keep peace for yourself?
I think when there is no logical way that we can come to a compromise and move forward, why waste your breath?
But, okay, I disagree. You knew that was coming somewhere.
If I'm fighting you tooth and nail about this one issue and you're dead set and I'm not changing, I'm going to do it like this. I don't care what you think. I don't care what evidence you bring to me. Why are you doing it? Why wouldn't you just go along?
Well, because what if it's something harmful or non-beneficial? Like let's just say one of your children says, I don't know. They want to do a certain job maybe, okay? And their monthly expenses, let's say, are $5,000 a month. And the job is $1,000 a month. But they love it and they want to follow their heart and they want to quit everything else and just do that. And they're fighting you, but you know what that's going to mean. If you just say, okay, follow your dreams with no backup plan, that means you financially are backing it up. They could, if you don't, they could lose their home. They could lose their car, whatever age they are. They could lose their children. I don't know. So do you really stop fighting it to keep the peace?
Yes, because how are they going to learn? How are you going to learn that I got $5,000?
Oh, okay. So does that mean you're not going to intervene?
No, you can't. You cannot. You absolutely cannot people please in that moment because you become an enabler then.
But do you feel you do that?
Hell no, I do the complete opposite. You know my chaos with my people, and no, I don't do that. So in this year, my challenge is to go back to therapy and deal with all of that. I've been in therapy for over 20 years, but there are some things that I feel that I still struggle with. And I'm compensating for the little girl that didn't have. And okay, it's time for a little girl. Baby, life was fucked up for you. Sorry.
Right.
But this adult Tiffany got to get it together. And so how finding my voice, I think, is what's going to help me stop people pleasing.
Do you think that also comes from like the episode where we talked about confidence? If you feel more confident in those choices of speaking up for you, and you feel more confident in A, B, or C, do you think that that eliminates more of the people pleasing? Because sometimes I feel like it can be the opposite. Like there's a people pleaser, and then there's the person, like I feel like sometimes it's me. I will fight freaking everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's to prove a point, or because I don't want to feel like somebody is people pleasing me, or, you know, I guess it's hard for me to say like white flag, like so with the people pleaser, you have to be willing all the time to just say, I think of other examples where people are like, I'm exhausted. I'm like, well, then why did you volunteer to do that? Well, because I don't like to say no.
Yeah, that's also people pleasing.
So but I think it's because they're uncomfortable saying no?
No, I think for me, the confidence not going to come until I find my voice and am okay with other people being upset that I said no, or that I still spoke up and didn't agree.
But why do people, this is, so, you know how I am. I like to go to somebody and say, Tiffany, I don't understand this. Like when all this stuff, like even with like when all the Black Lives Matter started, and I would come to you and say, I don't understand. Yeah. Explain it to me. Yeah. I don't want to have an argument. I want to understand it. And if I might not agree with some of your points, you might say some things and just whatever, I don't agree with you, and that's cool. Mm-hmm. But why do some people, and I don't know if you can answer this, but if I say no, or, I don't want to do it your way, why does it become a fight?
Because if you love me, you're going to do it the way that I want you to do it.
See, and I feel like this, the more we're talking, I feel like you're the people pleaser and I'm an asshole. Because, well, like my partner will come and say some things to me. Yeah. And I absolutely disagree. And I will fight and fight and fight that I don't agree to your, and he's not a people pleaser in our relationship per se, and I'm not. So, like, if one of us was like that, I feel like there would be less conflict.
So then you're at a gridlock, though. But how do you feel? We're going to talk about gridlock another time in communication. But then you're at a gridlock.
But so when I was people pleasing, help that. You just
go along with it and be like, today I'm going to just go along with it. Tomorrow, if I feel like.
But it doesn't end today.
No, it doesn't.
If we have a discussion today, let's just say the kids broke a rule. Okay, and you say they need to have this consequence, and they say no, and we fight about it, and then you just say fine, you do what you want.
Yeah,
that's people pleasing. Yes, but then tomorrow, when the same thing happens, how do you not say, well, that's because you didn't blah, and you start fighting?
Because you don't want to start conflict. Because this part, I think conflict and people pleasing kind of go together. I don't want the conflict, so if the kid does it again tomorrow, then maybe I take them aside by myself. If my partner is not there and whip their ass and be like, didn't I tell you not to do that? Or I would tell them, you did such and such, and this is your punishment, and you better not say nothing. Shut your mouth. You go somewhere.
But you can't do that.
I used to.
But you can't do that.
I used to.
Well, we're going to talk about parenting.
I used to.
But if you have a partner and they're saying no, like, okay, maybe when you're the mom and you're the dad like that, but in a step blended family situation, I feel like that's much different.
It is very
different. Because one person holds the power, I feel, in my perception. Mm-hmm. So if you people please in that all the time, don't you think people pleasing creates more friction and conflict in a relationship than it does?
I think with the people pleasing comes a level of built up resentment. So each time that I do it, and I didn't honor my authentic self or my authentic opinion, I am building up a level of resentment. But how I deal with it is just like, just let it go. Just forget about it. Like it didn't happen.
But do you think too, like, okay, so let's say I people please you, right?
Mhm.
Say you, Megan, can you go do this? Yes. Megan, can you do that? Yes. But then there's, Pam over here, and Pam says, Megan, will you do this? And I say no. And should we do it? No. So I don't people please this person, but I people please this person. Doesn't it kind of look like I'm a hypocrite or look like I don't know how to explain it. Like, just if you don't do it to everybody and you're only doing it to somebody, couldn't it perceive like you're being somebody you're not?
Well, I think you're still being somebody you're not. It's just those relationships. So, for instance, say you're closer to me than you are with Pam. And in order to feel validated, feel confident, feel loved, and like you're my person, I'm going to people please you because I don't want to lose you. But if I am, and I have been this in relationships with people, if I didn't like you or I didn't give a shit about what you thought about me, I'd be like, F you, and no, girl, bye, you going about your business. But in those relationships that I value very, very closely and personally, I will people please my mom, my dad, my husband, my kids. But there are some people that I've totally just blown up on and say, you're dead to me.
But do you think that isn't it kind of weird though? Because like if you're my best friend
Mhm.
and you say, Megan, come over here and help me mow my lawn, I should be able to say, girl, I'm freaking tired. I'm not doing that without feeling like, I have to.
Yeah.
So is there a difference between people pleasing and kind of like an obligation of relationship? Like because you're my friend and you asked me I should go, but it's not necessarily people pleasing. I just feel like you wouldn't have asked if you didn't need me. Or is that all the same thing? Because sometimes I will do things for my friends because they're my friends, and I know that if they needed me, they asked, and so I'm going to do that.
But I think with,
hoping in return, it's going to be in return if I'm ever in a bind,
Yeah.
But then other times, I would feel bad if I was doing things just to people please and not out of the, like I feel like with certain relationships, you have an obligation
Yep.
of the things you would do for each other,
Mhm.
and not an obligation, I guess a duty, something that doesn't sound so bad. But is that the same as people pleasing?
No, because like I said, I think people pleasing is you going along with whatever to avoid conflict or the feeling like, okay, if I don't do this, they're not going to like me. They're not going to be my friend. They're not going to love me. Um, so I think people pleasing is, in essence, avoidance of whatever you're trying not to have.
But can't that be like extremely harmful? Because think about, for instance, like I don't drink.
Yeah.
So if we went out and you decided to be a people pleaser and people kept saying, well, you don't really bothers me, you don't do this, you don't, and you start doing things for people outside of what you really want to be doing, I mean, isn't that really
Yeah,
harmful?
it is harmful. It is very harmful. I think it's a form of self abuse.
Especially because if you're in a relationship, especially. So if you're in a marriage or a non-traditional relationship like mine,
or you can listen to that,
or your children's relationship, if you're constantly, I mean, I've always been taught, and I feel like maybe I didn't understand it when I was younger, but I understand it now, that tough love is love.
Yeah, it is.
Like if I started working when I was 15, you go earn your own money, pay your way, school or career, whatever that is. I didn't have everything handed to me per se, but if that did happen, I feel like I would have been a different person.
Yeah,
if somebody just people pleased me my whole life, my adult life experience would probably be different.
Yeah.
And so how do you find a balance of, you might have to people please once in a while, right? I mean, you're a professional, you're an adult, you're in a relationship. Yeah. We all have to people please, I think, to some extent.
Yeah.
But how do you know that this is beyond enough?
I think when you don't feel like you're being your authentic self, when you're doing it out of, I don't want to conflict, I don't want to feel rejected, I don't want to feel abandoned. So if you are adding all those negative emotions to the reason why you're doing it, then I think that's people pleasing.
So it really comes back to, circling all the way around, is that the more confident you are in yourself and the more, you've dealt with your shit, and the more that you're like, this is me, this is what I believe, I feel okay if this person gets mad at me, you're confident in those decisions, the less people pleasing you will become.
I don't know. Because I still think until you deal with the root of it, well, I guess maybe when you deal with the root of it,
because for some people it may be confidence, for some people it may be trauma,
yeah,
and when you deal with it, but I feel like, okay, if you've had a partner, you've been people pleasing for 5 years. And then all of a sudden you start saying no and F you and I'm not doing that or whatever, then what? Because now you're not the same person.
You're going to have some serious conflict. And we always say this almost in every episode, communication.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have those hard conversations where you're saying, hey, for this amount of time, I've been doing this just because I wanted you to feel like I loved you and that we were in a great relationship and there was nothing wrong. But some of those things I said yes to, I really wanted to say no to. And I'm saying no now. Having that conversation, which I ain't there yet. I am not there yet. Is going to be what helps lessen the blow to the person that you have been people pleasing for years and years and years. And even with your children, slowly cutting it back. Like, hey, this is the purse strings are cut, the apron strings are cut. You own your own. We got to have that serious conversation and then moving forward, but sticking to it. So I think I've decided many times over, okay, I'm not going to people please anymore. Everybody.
But you do it because you avoid the conflict.
Yeah, avoid the conflict. I don't like arguing. I don't like fussing.
But do you think that sometimes we think, so like, sometimes do you think that you have to people please because you think there's going to be conflict? So like, I know with you, I can talk about almost anything and there's not going to be a conflict. But I do know with certain people, they're just going to come at you.
Yeah.
Or they're going to just be ugly. Like they can't have a conversation like, Tiffany, I don't understand that. Well, Megan, this is how, okay, I don't agree with you. Okay, well, I don't agree with you. Like, you know, we had a conversation the other day in here about an episode we were going to do, but we're not there yet. But, you know, we have our own opinions. Yeah. But, you know, do you think it's based on that trust and knowing of the other person? Like, because I feel like even your partner could be somebody you don't feel that you could be 100% authentic because you know there's going to be backlash.
I 100% agree with that. There are certain things that I feel like I can tell you, and that even if I'm off my rocker in my thinking, you're not going to say, Tiffany, you are full of shit. You're the dumbest person I ever seen. Why would you think that? You're not going to do that to me. Right. You're going to listen to what I have to say. You're going to rationalize it and you're going to say, Tiffany, I understand how you feel. How about trying this? How about doing that? How about this? And it's a conversation and it makes me feel like I'm heard, I'm valued, and I'm still a good person. Versus the other side, when you're trying to avoid that conflict and people please, where the person might say, what the hell is wrong with you? Why would you think that? That is so stupid. So I'm not going to share with that person.
Right.
Because that's going to piss me off. I don't want the judgment. That's going to piss me off. And then you're going to be dead to me in some way or form. But yeah, I do think it depends on the person. And I don't share a lot of my thoughts. This is very scary what we're doing. I don't share a lot of my thoughts with a lot of people. I just keep it in my head. I think you and maybe 2 other people are the only people that I will be like, this is what I'm going through. Like, I'm seriously jacked up.
Do you think everybody is a people pleaser? Do you think everybody is in some shape or form a people pleaser? Or do you think there's some people who are truly not a people pleaser?
I think in certain situations, everybody is a people pleaser. Because if, for instance, say you're going to a wedding and this is your best friend or your sister or somebody you really, really care about and you can't stand their partner, are you really going to ditch the wedding and not go?
That's true.
You would go to support the person that you love and just be praying. And maybe you tell them face to face, I think this is a douchebag and you should not marry him. But, you know, I love you, girl, and I'm here for you. if the shit hits the fan, you got somewhere to go. So I think it depends on the situation.
So by you saying that too, though, I think sometimes being a people pleaser can make you, in some cases, the bigger person.
Yeah.
You know, because like, you know, you tell people you might not like your job, but you got to go and you got to do it. And in a way that's people pleasing, which makes you a bigger person. Because if you went in every day with conflict, you probably wouldn't have a job. So I think it's finding a balance of that healthy, you know, is this worth the argument or not is probably the little scales.
Yeah.
You know, is it worth it? And truly what makes it worth it? Is it your values, your morals, your relationship? What is it? Or is it not worth it because just my opinion versus your opinion?
That's true. But I think when you constantly avoid it, then it's a deeper issue.
It is, because then you're avoiding that person or that thing, or you've never learned to deal with conflict or whatever. And that can cause unhealthy relationships, unhealthy workplaces, unhealthy friendships, toxic. When people say, how do you hang out with the toxic people or whatever?
Yeah.
You know, it might be because you don't know how to break from that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they do give you something in return for the
you are getting
you're getting a little bit of validation,
time,
love, you know, all of that, but it's unhealthy. It can be unhealthy.
So what we want to tell you is monitor your people pleasing. Really look at the next week of your life and really take note. You know, am I hiding my beliefs?
Mm-hmm.
Am I hiding my feelings? Am I hiding my, you know, insecurities? Am I hiding? What are you? Look at your whole week. Start today from when you listen to it. It's a Thursday, and go 1 week and say, you know, am I truly being my authentic self? And if I am afraid to be honest with this person or that person, whoever it is, your child, you know, what do I need to work on so that I can build a healthier relationship with being who I am and being honest with who I am?
And therapy definitely can help that. That's been a coping mechanism that's helped you make it through and past that trauma. Therapy is your best friend.
So chime in and let us know if you feel that you are a people pleaser. Because I think a lot of people are going to look and go, I am a people pleaser because I avoid conflict. So let us know. Like, share, subscribe. We love that you guys are on this journey with us. Until our next episode.
Bye, guys.
Bye.